Yo, what's up, everybody? It's time for a little overreaction Monday right here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Anwar Richardson. You know who this video is brought to you by. You see them at the top of the screen right there, rogueshop.com. Use that promo code Orange Bloods. Texas is home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. I'm surrounded by product. In fact, I'll circle back around. We'll mention Rogue Shop here in a little bit. I'll show you some of the product. It's literally at my beck and call everywhere I go. But we got to start off with some Arch Manning discussion because Anwar kind of threw me for a loop this morning. And I got to be honest, 2 hours ago, I was a big Elmo shoulder shrug with like, what do we come out of talking about from the weekend? What's the hook? And then Anwar just sends me a message on Teams. And he's like, part of me feels like Arch is not off the hook.
What was the comparison that I used though? There was a.
Well, no, I'm not done. Then you said if he were Quinn, we would still be talking about him. And I'm fascinated by that because I definitely don't feel like Arch is off the hook. Not at all. In fact, do you feel like people have let him off the hook?
I feel like it to a certain degree. It was almost like the Rocky throw the damn towel thing, where honestly, Sam Houston happened, and it was almost like, okay, it's over. Like, all right, let's just let it go. And I think what the benefit for Arch is that there was a bye week, right? So there wasn't a lot to discuss as relates to him. But yeah, I feel like there is a little bit like, all right, well, you know. Sam Houston State happened. We're good. Let's move on. And I said it to use Quinn because I'm like, hell, there would be questions about Quinn after good performances, let alone bad ones. And I felt like the natural thing, had this been a Quinn Ewers year, would have been like, well, what's Quinn going to be looking like as we head into SEC play? Because that's really important. And then you were like, well, I don't know. I'm like, no. Let's keep that same energy because as we head into SEC play and we're talking about 4 games away from Austin, one of the things that will make a huge determination as to what happens in these SEC play really over the next 4 to 5 games before the next bye is going to be Arch Manning. But had it been Quinn, you would have been so happy to do a show about it. So happy. Did he?
Too, and I'd be fucking happy to do a show over as a quarterback who's good. If I can do one of those shows before the YouTube channel is over, it would be the blessing of you and I's lifetime. I think I'm bewildered by this take because I think you are so far off from the pulse of Texas football. The Orange Bloods universe is scared shitless for Saturday. If you think they are like, Arch is good, Sam Houston State happened, he's back on the bike, he's pedaling. No. Everybody realizes he gets back on I-35 on Saturday and driving down, a community street when the school lights are blinking is not quite the same thing as having to get on the lower level of 35. No one thinks that Arch Manning is absolutely going to be okay on Saturday. He's the most scrutinized player in college football, so much so that Texas has, and look, let's not pretend like Texas probably didn't have this coming. Texas gets a lot of benefit of the doubt. Texas gets a lot of juice for being Texas. Arch has gotten a lot of juice for being Arch. Good or bad, we knew the coverage was going to be obscene this season, and he's been incredibly highly scrutinized. No one knows if he's any good. Still, he is the player when that game starts on Saturday. No eyes will be on any other player in the program. They will all be focused on Arch. And if he blinks, Rome will burn. It is not. Arch is so not on the hook. He literally still has the hook around his neck. The only thing this weekend did was it just didn't pull because there was no games. But I'm a little bewildered at the idea that like Arch isn't getting it from people and that people are giving him the benefit.
How are you bewildered? You had 10 thoughts from the weekend and you didn't write one section about the guy.
Because I've written like 100 sections.
But going into it, you can't.
I've done a million shows on Arch. Arch didn't do anything this weekend. I talked about, a million things. No one could accuse me of never writing on Arch. I write on Arch.
You say you'd be bewildered. I'm like, well, heading into SEC play, there wasn't one section on.
And I did write about Arch. Literally, I posted the quarterback ratings of all of the quarterbacks starting on top 15 teams. You need to read my column instead of
I read it.
Section 3 is about Arch Manning and his rankings inside both the top 15 in quarterback passing efficiency and his ranking in QBR, because I didn't want one person to say, well, this guy's ranked here in quarterback efficiency, but that's a flawed stat. So look at this one. He's much higher, because weirdly, Gunnar Stockton's QBR, I think, is first in the SEC, but like his passer rating is terrible. But he averages like 3 yards a carry. He only has 3 touchdowns rushing. I literally don't understand QBR. But the whole point of the column, that section, was to point out where Arch is on the totem pole of all the starting quarterbacks for current top 15 teams in the AP. And then the section talks about what he needs to do if Texas is going to be successful, where he needs to go on those lists. So yes, I did write about Arch. I wrote about Arch the way I wrote about nobody else in the program. Nobody else in 10 Thoughts from the Weekend. No other player had a section dedicated just to him. No one.
I mean, okay, but you made mention of playoff quarterbacks, right? And there was an Arch mention. Sure, there was an Arch mention, but it wasn't an Arch question per se. It was not the same. It was not. I'm holding you accountable for as a guy who had to sit here for 3 years and hear the
truth.
The Quinn sucks conversation.
I never said he sucked. I said he wasn't good enough.
Minutia's, right?
But unless you think not good enough is sucking, there's a lot of things in this world not good.
We had to hear how much you really questioned how that guy was, and that guy at this point has.
What do you think I'm not saying about Arch? I just said he's the biggest question mark on the team going into this next game, and that Texas fans are literally about to shit their pants in anxiety.
So what do you know? Here's what you're not saying. Do you feel the confidence in Arch going into SEC play as you did heading into the season?
No.
Okay. And why?
Because he hasn't done anything yet. I need to see him have some success. This is, going into October, my position on Arch was that he would just be further along than he is. Now, can he get there? I think so. Can I say he's there yet? No. Have I said repeatedly I expect that before this season is over? In fact, I said it again this weekend in my column when I didn't talk about Arch. I still expect him to have a couple of more bad games this season, like bad games. He's a young quarterback. Remember when we had that conversation about Quinn? And you thought I was just being mean to him. And what I was really doing was correctly talking about the ups and downs that we see with young quarterbacks. And the worry with Arch was always going to be, it's pretty rare that a guy just gets to skip the learning curve. It happens that a guy just shows up, plays, and never has to go through some ups and downs. But the history of the sport at every level, from college to the pro, it's why I bring out the Aaron Rodgers and the Tom Brady and the Peyton Manning and the Kyler Murray stats from their first seasons as starters, where you go, it happened to them too, huh? Arch is a work in progress. He is not an All-American. He's not where I thought he would be. He is a major question mark. I don't think That's disputable. What's disputable?
There's nothing disputable.
And what do you think do you think that those words have not been said about Arch Manning out of this mouth for weeks?
It was really nice the way you said it.
Well, but I'm a poet with words.
I mean, it's really, yes. But I think the thing is more so than.
But he has not been good enough.
Well, and I think that
in your words, not good enough equals sucks. Now, I haven't said that. That's what you're saying when I say the words not good enough. But Arch has not been good enough. The bar has to be the bar for him this weekend raises. If he can't be significantly better than he was in the first 3 games of the season, Texas got a real problem on its hands on Saturday. Simple as that. Like, there's no benefit of the doubt. That's part of what he has to earn this weekend as they get ready to go into the Oklahoma game. Because the last thing that this program wants to deal with while Oklahoma's dealing with their own quarterback questions, and you and I know what next week will look like. Is John Mateer going to play? What did he practice on Monday? He suited up, but did he throw? He threw, but did he have a red jersey on? Is he cleared for contact? Like, we know what next week will look like with Mateer. But the last thing Texas wants is to go into that game with quarterback anxiety. And if Arch doesn't play well, Arch, if he plays well, Texas will have some real momentum going into the Oklahoma game. If he doesn't, win or lose, the anxiety meters next week will be maxed out. And he will enter that. He's already going to enter that game with a ton of pressure. It will be more pressure than he had when he went into the Ohio State game. And I don't know that that's good for him or not. I have not yet seen a guy who responds really well to pressure this season. So
who's under more pressure heading into that game? A lot. Who's under more pressure? And I asked this without feeling like I know the 100% answer. Billy Napier or Arch Manning?
Oh, Napier.
Okay.
Because Arch going to get the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And honestly, look, I remember in 2010, as bad as Garrett Gilbert was, it was bad. They brought him back and tried to run it back. It's hard. 5-star quarterbacks who nobody wants to be the school. It had to have been so hard for Oklahoma to give up on Jackson Arnold. And how bad must he have been to be like,
yeah.
They ran Dylan Gabriel out of town for him.
That's a lot of mismanagement there, by the way. A lot of mismanagement there.
They figured out real quick that was hustling backwards. But
by the way, Catch, Sark is going to be at 11 o'clock. They adjusted the time.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to need to get out here a little bit earlier than
I just saw we had a $20 super chat. Let's do this.
Yeah. Let's get that. We have a few super chats.
I know. I'm going back. We're circling around. Oscar said, wasn't around for the Sims era, but Quinn definitely got way too much heat because Arch was in the wings. Don't think I forgot you and many others saying we win the title if Arch starts last year. Catch him. Oscar, the thing is, and you know what, Oscar, that's fair. Like, I suppose the thing that I would say is if we go based off of the evidence from this season, you're right. I was wrong. If what Texas would have received last year from Arch Manning was exactly what's happened in 2025, I would have been wrong. Now, the thing is, I don't know what games they would have lost because I can't stress enough. The offense last year kind of sucked. Like, it did not break 17 points in regulation in 4 quarters of football in 5 of the 6 most important games of the season. It did it once in the playoffs. It didn't do it against A&M somehow. Like, game by game, the Texas offense wasn't very good. It kind of reminds me of the situation I got myself painted. Golly, this is going to turn into a therapy session, Oscar. In 2010, I got carried away with and oh my God, I hope this metaphor and example does not send some of you into the streets like looking to throw yourself in front of a bus. But I said some pretty bold things about Garrett Gilbert going into 2010. Like I said, he would play bigger in big games than Colt McCoy did in 2009. And everybody was like, ah! But the thing was, Colt was terrible in big games. Tech, OU, Nebraska, the biggest games of that season, Colt's numbers were awful. It was just awful. So what I was really doing was like a gotcha moment. It was like I'm setting this incredibly low bar that everybody thinks is really high. And then the guy that I thought would meet it didn't. It turned out I was kind of right, but nobody cares about the minutia and the details. So Oscar, you're right. The only arch we've seen, not good enough. I think the one thing I would say is if Arch had continued on from his starts last season and just continued on, I don't know that we see the same Arch that we've seen this season. This is a little bit of a weird deal. It'll be interesting to see how he comes out of this long term. Like in 10 years from now, is he still playing? Do we look back? Do we go, that was weird? Like he was all over the place. Or will we go like we do 10 years later with Garrett Gilbert, the early signs were that he kind of sucked, and 10 years later, didn't get much better. Like that's kind of what Saturday is the beginning on more of us finding out. But Oscar, that's fair. I would just say this. Arch could have started last year and the Texas offense could have not scored 17 points in games. He could have done that. And Texas probably still would have won the games unless he's even worse than we are. But I feel you, Oscar. I'm not running from the comment. You're not wrong. Tom G says, I don't think Arch gets a pass, but Texas football is under a microscope nationally that no one else is. Well,
Tom, I just got to push back on that whole thing. Ohio State's under a huge microscope. Georgia is under a huge microscope. Kalen DeBoer was about to get run out of town 2 weeks ago. Like a few weeks ago, people, you saw the video of the woman who's like, I hope I hit the lottery so I can pay for Kalen DeBoer's buyout. Okay? Like,
he went 9-3 last year, and they were ready to run him out.
Like he literally said he got Alabama fans to calm down with the Georgia win. So I just don't think it's about a microscope thing. I think it's more about production. And when teams look at Texas going against San Jose State and UTEP and not looking good, like that's not the microscope. That's just a reflection of what you're seeing that's out there that no one can say. So I push back on the, I love it when they interview players are like, we're Texas, we're going to get everyone's best shot. Well, everybody is going to give you somebody their best shot. I mean, that's
Georgia gets everybody's best shot.
Yes. Like, it's just like, you're not.
Vanderbilt does not go into the Georgia week thinking to themselves, this is some bullshit, man.
No, exactly.
They're like, I'm putting something on tape on that guy. Like,
you don't think Notre Dame gets everybody's best shot?
In fact, we do have to pretty much stop and say Notre Dame and Bama are different. But look, Tom, Texas didn't run from this, Tom. They did not try to slow any of this down in the offseason. There were ways to slow it down. Sark went all in. Like, hey, I may sound critical, and I have been, of Quinn, but like I'm not his coach. And he's been the one that during the offseason was making comments about like needing to elevate the expectations. And they did not slow down. Sark never once said, guys, hey, I feel like I need to start the media session off today with just a little conversation about the quarterback. Like, I know things are being ramped up, but like he's a young dude. And if we enter the month of September and he hasn't thrown a bunch of touchdown passes, like that could be on the table. It never happened. No one, Sark and no one in the program one time this offseason ever said, guys, tap the brakes. So they're culpable. So is Arch and his family. We can say what we want to about not wanting to take money when he wasn't the starting quarterback, but he is a national spokesperson and he's not yet good. So there was like, we don't want to push too fast, but they're like, it's like saying someone's a patient person, but maybe not the most patient person in the world. You would have to say that about the Mannings. They were 99%, like they were more patient than 99% of the people in the world. Could they have been more patient, though? Could we have seen a little bit less than Arch until after the Ohio State game? I mean, all I'm saying is it's not fair, but this ain't fair business. It's show business. And like people that are involved in show business, which Arch Manning is, like he does commercial, he's in show business. Like it's what comes with the territory. It just is. Lane for $20. The real question is, will the offensive line play well? Lane, those things are not mutually exclusive. There are about 5 real questions. Not more real than the other.
I mean, Lane, if we expand it, there's a lot to discuss here. Like we could ask about the offensive line playing well, and I will answer the question. Catch, I went and broke down the numbers in my column on what it would take for the running backs to get to 1,000 yards. It was literally like whoever, because ain't nobody got nothing as far as yards are concerned, right? So they're all about a buck something, and each one has to average over 100 yards a game just to get to 1,000 in the regular season. We still have the conversation that we can have about wide receivers. And what does that really look like, from, do they have the playmakers at the receiver position? So, and then you get into the offensive line. So will the line play well? Listen, what did we do know? And I know, and Catch will agree with me on this when I say this one. Florida's offense sucks. Now their defense is good,
yeah, man,
but their offense sucks. And so the question is that now from a defensive perspective, can that defense get with this offensive line? Probably 100%. Will this probably end up being a 19-6 kind of game? Like whatever, I'm taking the under or whatever that point total is. Like it's going to be ugly for me. 17-6, something crazy, 20-6. But the offensive line play well. Now that in itself, Catch, is a hell of a question that I can't say I know the answer to.
Well, as the author of the phrase damn good, I realize that people's interpretations of some of these subjective words can be quite different. So I think it's a pertinent question, though. Thank you, Lane, for $20, because I'm going to ask Anwar 2 questions. One, did the O-line play well against Ohio State? Did that qualify as the line playing well?
It all depends on what aspect you're talking about. And, Sark would tell you that they were able to run the ball versus Ohio State, and he felt pretty good about that, right? So some of that, I said Sark would tell you that.
You're right.
I prefaced it by saying,
sorry, my brain just was an autopilot.
Sark would tell you that they played well and ran the ball versus Ohio State. I mean, the thing is, they were average to, if with a scale of 1 to 10, maybe 6-ish, 6.5-ish. So were they great? No. Were they the reason they lost? No. Because the times that Manning did have time, things didn't connect, receivers didn't connect. So, were they fine? It's crazy. Quite honest with you, Catch, I felt like they played, and I had to look at the grades. I felt like they played worse against UTEP than they did Ohio State. I'm just being quite honest with you.
If they play as well as they did against Ohio State, can they beat Florida?
Yes.
I guess ultimately that's the
yes,
bar
because this goes back to our Zach Shackelford good conversation, right? Not, will it be do they need an all-world performance? No. But do they just need something that's good enough to get by? Yeah, I think that's good enough to get by versus a Florida team that I just don't expect to put up points.
I think that could be the title of the team's slogan at the end of the year, honestly. And I don't know how much Texas fans look. I watched Texas go 13-0 and play in a national championship. And Texas fans were so miserable that season, Anwar.
Yeah.
That's how good it used to be around here, that they went and played in a national championship game that they're convinced that they would have won had Colt McCoy not been injured. But that entire season was a weekly root canal. Oh, every week, because it was not what 2008 was, which was like a fairy book tale. Everybody kept waiting for the fairy book to come back, and it just never did. Now, Earl Thomas had a fairy book season in 2009, and that defense did. The offense, I'm telling you, the copy of the DVD could have been 2009 Texas Longhorns. Just good enough on offense to win a bunch of games. And I just think that everybody needs to prepare themselves for what – look, if you know a Baltimore Ravens fan or an old school Pittsburgh Steelers fan or call someone up and say, hey, what's it like rooting for a team that you know is going to win 75% of its games, but probably won't break 24 in any of them? Yeah. You need to listen to them, like tell you how to survive, because this team, I think, may end up being 10-2 and making the playoffs. It just might not do it with like a fireworks show offensively that we are demanding and expecting. I think Texas fans need to recalibrate their brains. Like, look, if they beat Florida on Saturday 20-6, that's okay. If Steve Sarkisian would snap your hand off right now if you offered him 20-6, 2-touchdown win on the road. I mean, he'll know it's not sexy, but a 2-touchdown win on the road. So, it is the style of this Texas team, and I'm okay with it. It's why I have not budged on where I think Texas is as a team. I still think they are at the top of the SEC food chain, because I think that defense is going to be elite all season. It only gave up 17 points in 2 games last year. Georgia at home, which it was phenomenal defensively in that game. And then they had the game at Vandy. Those are the only games all season where they gave up 20 points or more. I think we'll see a similar fate this season. They haven't given up more than, 14 in a game this season. So I don't think that the offense is going to be great a lot of weeks. I think they will win games. If Arch Manning cannot turn the ball over, they'll win games. It won't be pretty.
So there's a couple of things for me, Catch, as you think long term, right? I think there are teams that are willing to lay down for Texas. Like, I think, look, we know Lagway is a turnover machine waiting to happen. We know Oklahoma will say Mateer is going to play up until he doesn't, right?
It might be game day too.
Yes, in Arkansas.
And then they might do it the next week after that. It'll be funny when the next week it's the same exact thing all over again.
But when you start talking about, hey, do they just need to be good enough, right? That was always my Quinn thing. Quinn's he wasn't elite, but is he good enough to help you win games?
He was.
That's it, right? So, I look at the dangerous ones. Oklahoma's a dangerous team, right? So it is what it is. Does this offense just need to be good enough to get past Kentucky? Yes. Do they need just to be good enough to get past Mississippi State? Yes. Now, I know you like to poke at me sometimes about the Vanderbilt thing, but
it's a good, solid football team.
They're a solid team. They're a team that's actually winning handedly.
They know who they are.
So I look at Vandy and Georgia in those I say back to back week. There's going to be a bye game in there, bye week in there. Yeah, I look at Vandy, Georgia, and A&M as the toughest teams remaining on the schedule. Now, if Mateer plays, maybe that switches it a little bit for me. But I look at the 3 ones for me, and if I had to rank them, I'd have to go Georgia, A&M, and Vandy. If I had to rank them, those are to me the 3 toughest ones. And if Texas just drops one of those, to your point, you're at 10-2. You probably still get to go to the college football playoffs, and you go to the SEC championship game, and therefore you'll go to the playoffs. So, but those to me,
the good news about that, real quick, is that I would assume if Vandy's 3rd, that OU would be 4th.
Yes.
So in that conversation, your 4 toughest remaining games are road game, home game, neutral game, which we spent a lot of time this year talking about road game, the big 3. And boy, you better win one of those. It's weird how Florida, the perception of that has changed. And I could make a case that the rest of the way, if we say road game, home game, neutral game, win 3 of the 4, don't have to win them all, but win 3 of the 4, you'll be in the playoffs. I think Sark would take that, and I think he would feel like we can do that. We will win our home games because we're really good, and like the neutral game's the OU game. Like, we'll handle our business. And if they don't, like, Sark's got to look himself in the mirror and go, my team did not live up to the bar that I said it had created for itself. And they got to do some real self-evaluation at that point. I don't know if they're ready for that. We're a ways away from that, I suppose. But yeah, I'm with you. I think, and look, the issue is, just to bring it all back to Quinn.
Arch
and Quinn.
Okay.
Because I think the point will be the same.
Okay.
If Arch plays at the Quinn level, and what that roughly would mean is that his quarterback rating basically stays about where it is all season, right? Like, the numbers are a little juiced by the Sam Houston State performance, but like every quarterback in the country gets to play a Sam Houston State, and everybody's numbers are a little bit juiced. He's at a 155 passing efficiency. Like, it can't get worse than that. But if he hovers in that area, then they can go 10-2. And I think the problem then becomes the exact same problem that you had with Quinn, which is, can he be good enough to win most games? Yes. Can he get you to the playoffs? Hell yeah, he got you there twice. Can he win the playoffs? Yeah. Can he win the final couple of games in the season against the absolute toughest teams? Forget about Quinn. We don't need to relitigate that. With Arch, the answer will be no. That if we get to December and they're winning games, but the offense is scuffing along and just being good enough, Arch will get pummeled. He'll get pummeled probably worse than Quinn did. Just because Quinn was such almost more of a local punching bag than anything else. I don't think the nation sat around on pins and needles waiting for Quinn to do anything, whereas Quinn was a monster deal locally. You know,
he was never in the first segment of First Take, to my knowledge.
Correct.
You know,
but he was on the first segment of Orange Bloods Live.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Orange Bloods,
to
your point, right? It was because he's an in-state guy. And look, you know, because there's a danger of that too when you talk about the after effects. You know, if Texas goes 9-3, which, by the way, is not inconceivable, right? No. That's not like blasphemous at this point based off of what we've seen.
How would you handicap that? Like 30%, 40%, 50%?
I mean, I'd have to put 11-1 on. I had to put 11-1, 10-2, 9-3 on the table, right?
So let's start with 11-1.
That's not happening. I was going to say that's my lowest percentage.
10,
maybe 10% would be
for the math.
To make the math easier, let's just do 10.
Okay. Right? Let's say 8-4 or worse. Let's just get the extremes out of the way.
Whew.
I'll go 20%. They could go 8-4 or worse.
Okay. All right. So we got another 70% left between 10-2 and 9-3.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, Catch, I can talk. I
got the numbers in my head.
You got it?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, we can negotiate here. So we got 10% at 11-1.
Yep.
I'll go 40-30, 40% on 10-2, and 30% on 9-3. And that leaves 20 for worse than that, but that's still a pretty sizable number. That's, you know, the math would point potentially and say that 11-1 because Texas will be favored in all their games except for one, presumably. I think even the Georgia game is like a 2.5-point spread right now, which would mean on a neutral field, Vegas would have Texas as the favorite, which just may say a lot about the way Texas bets on college football.
Worse than anything else.
You okay with 40-30?
I'm okay with 40-30 because I think it can go either way.
Yeah,
I don't, do I expect? I would be surprised if they lose to Florida. I think it's going to ugly game, but I think they beat Florida. I think they beat Kentucky. Mississippi State. They're probably going to have to put up some points for that game, but I think their defense is good enough to beat Mississippi State. And I tell you, I'm worried about Vanderbilt because that was a close game last year. I know it was on the road, but it was come on, it's Nashville, it's Vanderbilt. Like it wasn't like you're going into the most hostile environment where you say, how do you win with all this construction going on here and all these empty seats, right? Like, how do you get past this intimidating place, right? No, it wasn't like that.
Home. Why are you trashing Vanderbilt's home, man?
That's
a proud university.
They are really proud. They have the perfect coach for that school program, but who, by the way, I hope stays there. And I hope he learns from all these other coaches that decide they want to jump to something bigger. That, hey, sometimes it's just best is just to stay where you are and be a rock star as opposed to going to this, alleged greener pastures, right? So, but I'm worried about that game. Of course, I'm worried about Georgia, and I'm worried about what A&M looks like at the end of the day because that program continues to get better. I don't want to speak that evil on you, Rick and Bobby, but yeah, I think 10-2 and 9-3. Catch, if you told me which one is more probable, I'm probably I'll say 10-2. But if you told me 9, if we're doing a show,
if you told me you wanted to flip them, I would have no problem. Like, you know what I mean? Or if somebody in the chat was like, 30-40, I would not like stand on the table and go.
And the danger about 9-3 is what the SEC had to learn last year, which was you can't make the playoffs talking about all the teams that you lost against. That was Ole Miss talking about, hey, we had some quality losses here. South Carolina, you know what? We've had some quality losses here. Ole Miss doing the same thing. And the committee's like, yeah, but the wins is what we're kind of looking at. And it's like, but we're the SEC. Don't you know we play in the most powerful conference? And don't you know that our losses mean more than other people's wins? And they're like, yeah, y'all can stay home. And we'll go ahead and let these other Boise States and Indiana, we'll let those teams in. And that's the thing about 9-3. I don't care how you slice it. If your 9-3 is, hey, when we lost against Ohio State, Georgia, and A&M, that's not going to do it.
I watched that Indiana-Iowa game a little bit this weekend.
Did you?
And Indiana's going to probably make the playoffs because I just don't know that their schedule's that tough and, whatever. And we're going to have a conversation where at the end of the season, there's a 10-2 Indiana and there's a 9-3 somebody really like LSU, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody will know that LSU's on a neutral field would batter the brains of Indiana all over the field. But, it is what it is. We're going to have the same. We had the conversation last year. The conversation came down to, does Alabama at 9-3 with all those recent national, now maybe if they had Saban, it would have felt different. Maybe you don't turn Darth Saban away from the playoffs and at first year it goes 12. I don't know. But Alabama didn't get the benefit of the doubt last year, and I just don't think you can take it for granted. So Texas has to do whatever it takes to avoid 9-3. But I would offer, as Anwar outlined, 3 of the 4 toughest games that Texas has left to play won't be true road games. You get one get out of jail card. Hell, you get one get out of jail card, you still probably play in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
Because a 10-2 Texas means they've gone through SEC play 7-1. That probably gets them in.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because and if you make it to the SEC championship game, you will make the playoffs because they've said a runner-up of a conference championship game is still better than the team that was at home and not playing in championship weekend. Like, we can't penalize this conference championship loser. So the loser still gets in ahead of the winner.
There'll be a huge push to cancel the championship games.
Exactly.
And they can't do that.
There's a thing called money.
It's always about the money. It ain't show me right. It is show me the money. And
yeah, like you can't tell Greg Sankey, like, hey man, I know you guys go to Atlanta. Dr. Pepper's giving you money, AT&T is giving you money, like all this money. Let's just cancel all that. Like, they're like, nah, man, you need to make sure we protect our money. Hey, Catch, I need you to finish up the show so I can get down to Sark.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say last comment out the door.
Man, there's so much meat on this bone for me, Catch. I would just say this. I will say this, that there's an Arch thing that we talked a little about Arch. I think there's a Sark component that's involved in this one as well. Look, at the end of the day, you and I have talked about it, and you did have this in here, right? They hired Charlie Strong because he was supposed to be the expert on defense. That didn't happen. They hired Tom Herman because he was supposed to be the expert on offense, and that necessarily didn't happen. The one thing about Steve Sarkisian that they hired was saying, like, he's supposed to be this offensive guru. It's got to happen. Like, you've got to be great on your side of the ball, and then the other side, it's fine. Like, you should have the number one offense in the conference, and then the defense you're just trying to get by, right? Those Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma teams, right? Where it was just like offense is killing it, defense. Yeah, I guess we'll get around to that at some point, but at least that's when Lincoln was good. He hasn't been good in a long time. I'm just saying that will be a can of worms. The running game, like all these things. I know we're talking about Arch, but Sark won't be too far from that conversation if this offense doesn't turn around. And maybe he's in it already. And there's play calling and OCs. That's what I'm saying. There's so much more meat left on that bone, Catch.
All right, guys. I'm going to tell Anwar something after the show, and he's got to head down to the 40 acres to get ready for a press conference.
That was supposed to be at 11:30, and they just told us an hour and a half ago they moved it up.
Rogueshop.com. Woo. Get the hookup while you can, all the time. Promo code OrangeBloods. Get that discount. They do just an amazing job. I love them as sponsors. I love them as people. I love their product. I love their customer service. Let them love you back. And they will, I promise. They just do an amazing job, and there's nobody else we would go to. Nobody else we even want to partner with other than Richard and Shar at Rogue Shop. Guys, we got to go. Hit that thumbs up button, like the video, subscribe to the channel, get notifications. Jump into the comments section. Let us know right away, what do you want to see from Texas against Florida? What would be satisfactory for you? Just the W, or do you need a little bit of sizzle with that steak? For Anwar Richardson and myself, we'll see you again soon.